Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of night number 58 of Big Brother Season 26. A good Sunday to y'all. All right, first of all, let's talk about what we do know has happened in the house. I mentioned yesterday during my recap, I wasn't real sure if we'd had nomination ceremony or not. Seemed like it, but I just hadn't seen it official. It is official. We have a nomination from Leah. On the block this week are Rabina and Chemo. No huge surprise there. We thought that was the way they're heading. Certainly everyone was talking about that. Rabina and Chemo are on the block. And yesterday we had the veto competition, which we do need to talk about. Of course we do. So first of all, veto competition. We had Leah and Chemo and Rabina playing as the HOH and as the two nominees. Picked to play as well were Angela, Chelsea, and T-Core. I don't know if they were house guest choice or their name was drawn. Don't really know, but Angela, Chelsea, and T-Core playing as well. I think Cam may have hosted the veto competition. We'll find out when we watch it on the TV episode. But we did have the veto competition. The feeds cut out around noon or so. They were back around 2 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. And we learned that the veto winner is Angela. And the veto winner is Leah. Yes, indeed. We've got 2 separate veto winners. Feeds come back. Oh my gosh, trying to go back and forth between this and college football and keep a track. Try to see who had won this veto. Originally, it looked like maybe it was Leah, and then we started hearing, oh no, Angela's got it as well. I think Rabina had asked at one point, said, oh, you can go put your veto over next to Angela's, talking to Leah. Turns out there's 2 vetoes. Angela won the official golden power veto, and Leah won, they're calling it the janky veto. I don't know if that's the official name or not, but we've got the real veto and the janky veto both taking place. We don't know about a lot of them just yet. Not sure what the rules of power are for Leah's veto. She did suggest at one point that she will need to use hers first before Angela's. But I also heard her say at one point that she can only use Angela's, she can only use her veto if Angela uses hers. So we're not really sure what that may be. It also sounds like, we'll talk about it in a second, but that there may be some kind of a contest involved as to whether or not it gets power or not. We're a little uncertain. At the very end of the evening, Leah told, I think it was Rabina, that she's going to talk to production, the diary room today, and find out exactly what the powers of veto are. So maybe we'll get a little more handle on it. But 2 vetoes taking place. Leah did mention as well to Angela, saying, how great is it that I got this? Because if I hadn't gotten one of these vetoes, my whole HOH could have been completely turned upside down. If 2 people who weren't working with me had gotten these vetoes, I could have lost all power. So yeah, she's feeling very grateful that she's at least controlling one of these 2 vetoes and theoretically can keep at least one of the 2 people on the block that she was targeting. All right, so again, we don't know much about the veto itself that she has. We also don't know a lot about the veto competition yet. Leah and Angela talked right afterwards, so happy for each other and all that. One of them, I think, is Angela talked about how much she likes puzzles. So it sounds like it was some sort of a puzzle competition, but beyond that, we just don't know yet. Haven't heard the conversation yet. I'm going to be amazed if we find out that this veto comp had nothing to do with any of the carnival games in the backyard, none of the props left in the backyard, no counting of how many stuffed animals or ducks or whatever else may have been going on. If it had nothing to do with the backyard setting, I'll be surprised, but we just don't know yet. So there you are. So with all of that, let's talk about the feeds that took place from the veto competition onwards into the late evening. Let me just say this. I'm ready for this twist to be over. Get these house guests back inside. When they're all outside together, it means a couple of things. One, it's a lot tougher to talk game, so we're not getting as much content. 2, when they do talk game, they're so worried about being overheard that they start whispering. At one point, Rabina and T-Core were talking. As much as they talk, even with that, they were still worried they were being overheard. So they started mentioning people's names just to see if they could see someone look over, if maybe there was someone listening. So everyone's concerned about talking too much game because of the environment we've got going on right now, which is really cutting into our knowledge of what people's thoughts are and all that. So I'm ready to be done. Plus the fact, as much as I'm not always real happy when people stay up till 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, when they're all together, their cots are all together, they're going to bed a lot earlier as well. So again, we're not getting nearly as much content. I'm through with it, big brother. Don't keep it till Wednesday. Just shut it down right now. We'll forgive you. We'll all be fine. With all that, let's talk about the feeds, because we did have some conversations about 80% Rubina and T-Core, but a few others as well. And we're going to cover all of them as much as possible here. All right, we've got T-Core saying if the noms are the same, T-Core talking to Rubina, saying that if the noms stay the same, there's a good chance that Chemo isn't going to be here come Thursday. Well, Rubina ought to be kind of happy to hear that if the noms don't stay the same, there's a good chance. If I'm Rubina, I'm saying I don't want a good chance. I want a guaranteed chance that Chemo isn't here if the noms don't stay the same. But T-Core pointing out that we probably are going to lose Chemo at this point in time. T-Core is saying that Angela didn't set herself up well this week winning the veto. She's saying if you're going to win, if you're going to try to win, then win. But she just didn't set herself up well, that she should at least know when to talk about winning the veto and when not to talk about winning the veto. So I am not sure what she's getting at. If she thinks that it was unnecessary for Angela to win the veto this week, Angela's trying to build up her resume and she's trying to maintain some power in this house. So I don't have any issues with that. And it does sound like maybe Angela, when she got done, Angela, she's either way at the top or way at the bottom from an emotional standpoint. And I have a feeling once she won the veto, she was probably a little happier than maybe some people like T-Core thought she should have been. So whatever, they're griping about Angela and the fact that she won this thing. They are talking about T-Core saying that you can't win if no one in the house likes you, and if no one in the house wants you to win. Or being saying, don't they understand how this game is played, how the vote happens at the end? They're just saying Angela has ruined her relationship with so many people in this game that there's no way she's going to win. These two are going to be such incredibly bitter jurors. If they aren't sitting in the final two chairs, if they're having to cast a vote, pure bitterness, I think, from them in terms of how their vote's going to go. It's all going to be about who they like or don't like, as opposed to gameplay, I think. T-Core is saying that there are at least 5 people that are going to be on jury who don't care about how many comps you've won this season. She's saying, I don't care. Rubina said, I don't care. They're saying Mackenzie doesn't care. I think Chelsea and Cam, I don't even remember. But anyway, at the end, they're saying, we already have 5 people who don't care about that. So to go on and on about how many comps you win just doesn't matter, shouldn't matter. Well, considering that the 2 people are talking about this and saying that comps don't matter have won a grand total of 1 HOH between them and no vetoes, I kind of get where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, there are people that build comp wins as part of the resume and their determination on the votes. But they're saying it doesn't matter. And Angela, what's she doing? She's even if she makes it to the end of this point, there's no way she's going to get votes. Again, watch the bitter jurors. It's going to be interesting. All right, T-Core is saying that she would love to call Angela out after the veto ceremony. Not before. Funny how that works. But yeah, after the veto ceremony, she says she's very tempted to call Angela out, to tell Angela that she's been rude to T-Core since week number 2, and she does not appreciate it. Rubina's kind of encouraging her, saying, well, you know what, T-Core, if there's anyone in the house that could do it, it would be you, because even if you're on the block this week, there's no one sending you out the door. So you should feel safe to call Angela out. It's no big deal at all. You'd be fine doing it, unlike anyone else who could do it. I do agree with Rubina that T-Core is probably safe. Even if she was on the block, I do think T-Core would probably be safe with this. So I agree from that standpoint of Rubina. But it's not about just this week. It's about going forward. Why would you call someone out just because you think you should? I think that would be damaging to T-Core's game to do that. Remember, T-Core theoretically wants to be in one of those final 2 chairs where Angela could be casting a vote. So yeah, go right ahead and call her out if you want to. All right, T-Core is saying that if Leah or Angela use the vetoes this week and put up T-Core or Chelsea, or put them both up together, that would be an absolutely dumb move that would make 0 sense. A move that I would kind of like to see, just to create a little chaos, just to upset the apple cart, to get the attention of some people that probably are feeling a little too safe at this point in time. And here's the real kicker. Imagine a scenario, I don't see it happening, but imagine a scenario where the vetoes were used and we see T-Core and Chelsea both up on the block, kind of the leaders of the two different groups, as you will. Leah can't vote. As a result, the deciding vote on who goes home could come down to Angela. Now, wouldn't that be a kick in the pants for T-Core? Yeah, you may want to hold off calling her out until after we do know what's going on with the veto ceremony. But they're calling it a dumb move. I think there's some merit to actually doing that. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, T-Core is saying that if Chemo leaves on Thursday, she and Rabina at that point are going to be the least threatening people in the house, and hopefully other people recognize that. She's saying, hopefully, if that happens, and if the veto's not used and Chemo goes home, we'll be considered the least threatening in the house, and then one of us can win HOH. And next week we'll put up Leah and Angela together. Hopefully, send Angela out the door. And then maybe we could send Leah out the door the following week. And then the other 6 of us will duke it out and all of that. All right, we've got Leah talking to Cam. She's talking about her janky veto that she owns. She mentioned, and I don't think this is fact, I think this is just some opinions from Leah about how she thinks this could work. But there's a certain sense to it as well. She's saying that maybe the game would be something along the lines, or that her veto would be something along the lines of you pick one of the carnival games, and based on the carnival game that you pick and who wins it, is whether you could use it or not. And maybe, I think during this and some other conversations, there was talk about maybe that she may decide whether or not to use the veto, but who gets to pick the renom? Would it be Leah as HOH, or would it have some kind of effect based on who wins the carnival game and what carnival game? We just don't know, but I will like this a lot better if there's a little bit of a trick to it, that you've got to do something, that you've got to achieve some kind of skill before it actually gets used or the people picked, things like that. We'll find out more a little bit later, but she's talking to Cam about this veto and ways it maybe could be used. All right, we've got, as Leah talks to Cam, just a little bit later, we've got Chelsea and T-Core talking to each other. Chelsea is upset with Cam. She's upset with Cam that he made this deal for safety with Angela and Leah. That doesn't have her happy. She's upset because she told Cam, or she's upset because Cam told Leah to stand on one leg during the HOH competition, which apparently helped Leah win. So she's upset that Cam helped Leah win this thing. She's also upset that Cam seems to still be cozying up to Mackenzie. So Chelsea throwing out a lot of reasons why she is just not real happy with Cam right now. Does she truly feel that way? Or is this just a bit of a spin to distance herself from Cam in the eyes of T-Core? I think there could be a little bit of both built into it. All right, T-Core is saying a little bit later, talking. I thought this way, that is zero game talk, but what an interesting world. T-Core is saying that her mother apparently didn't know who her father was, and T-Core's grandfather did. Her mom didn't know who T-Core's grandfather was, and that her grandmother had said, oh, it was Muhammad Ali. And so T-Core's mom, apparently, while T-Core is being raised, that her mom always told her and her sisters that their grandfather was Muhammad Ali. I don't know that that's true. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know, but wouldn't that be kind of an interesting claim to fame celebrity? Bring T-Core and Claim to Fame as your next reality show, because that would be a fun one to have on there. But yeah, she's saying that she grew up thinking that Muhammad Ali was her grandfather. All right, we've got the house guests talking around. Remember, not a lot of game talk because of all this. We had, I don't know, remember if I mentioned before, throughout the day, they had these dance parties. They kept having to go stand on the checkered floor and do dances, a little like janky dance, and Chemo's come up with songs to go along with it. They had mandatory ice cream parties, pizza parties. They all ended up trying to play some of the carnival games, and if they succeeded, they grabbed one of their stuffed animals. Pretty soon, we had all of the house guests running around with their stuffed animals and having them involved in the dancing up. In other words, a lot of non-game talk, a lot of downtime, a lot of them just trying to just survive yet another day in the outdoors. If they had their way, they would have been sleeping on cots the whole time. Big Brother was actually forcing them to do some of this to get content, but we did see a lot of that. Eventually, as the sun starts to set a little bit, we get the house guests sitting around. They're talking about American Idol. They're talking about playing different games. What would you bring to an island if you were stranded? Things like that. So a little bit of that. More reality show talk. Chemo later's talking to Leah, saying that he could see her going on a dating show, and Leah saying, "Yeah, I would have never said I was down for that, but now after being in this torture chamber for 3 months or 2 months so far, yeah, I'd probably be down for that as well." So they're talking about that. They're talking about reindeer games that came out. Chemo is saying, "Oh, it's just like the regular season, except it's super short." Well, yeah, not really the same kind of strategy and all that the same way. I did like reindeer games, but not quite the same. Chemo, but he's telling Leah it's just like a regular Big Brother. She's saying she'd love to do something like that. Not sure she'd do another full season of Big Brother, but she'd love to do something like that. They're both talking about how cool it'd be to return to play Big Brother, do other reality shows, and all the things that we all talk about while we're in there. So they have some of those conversations. All right, we've got Chemo and T-Core talking a little bit more, complaining that since Tucker's been gone, Chemo saying, since Tucker's been gone, we've barely had any power. If I recall, weren't y'all a little bit involved in Tucker heading out the door to begin with? But he's saying ever since that, we haven't had any power. We're at the bottom of this thing. I've been on the block over and over again. We've got no control over this game. T-Core is saying, you and Rabina have had zero power. I at least had one power. Y'all haven't had anything whatsoever. Yeah, they don't have a real strong track record when it comes to HOH and vetoes just yet, right? All right, we've got Rabina and T-Core talking some more. I guess, thank God these two were out here talking, because if it wasn't for them, this would have been like a 2-minute long wrap up. But Rabina and T-Core talking. Rabina is saying that if she leaves this week, it's okay because it's been such an incredible experience and she would be okay with it. Fight to the end, Rabina. Just because you're on the block, don't give up. Fight to the very end. But T-Core is saying as well, talk about this situation they've got right now. T-Core is saying that, look, as much as I love Chemo, he doesn't fit the plan. That if he leaves, that they can get the girls to final 6. At that point, they can duke it out, and that's what the actual plan is, for now at least, is this girls alliance. So yeah, as much as I love Chemo, if he goes, he goes. At least we further the actual plan, the plan that's bigger than ourselves. She's saying that, questioning why they're battling with Angela and Leah so much, saying when we could work together, we should all have the same plan going forward. Well, it's right after they talked about putting the two of them up over the next week if they can win this thing, but saying, I don't know why we're fighting with them. We just get all the girls here and then we'll duke it out after we get done. She's saying that Angela has a false narrative about T-Core, Rabina, and Chemo being a trio, that really it's all about this grand plan for girls to make it to the end, and Chemo is just there because I'm not sure if she's really trying to convince Rabina of this, or she's just suggesting this as something maybe that they need to be talking to Angela a little bit later, that we aren't a trio. Chemo's just a little side guy that we'll get rid of to go through with the grand plan. But she does mention that, and that Angela has a false narrative whenever she talks about how dangerous this trio is. She says, it's not the case. Not the case. All right. She's saying that she isn't mad at Leah for putting up Chemo and Rabina this week. She's saying when Quinn did it, when Quinn was putting people up, my friends up, it felt like a backstab, and I didn't like it. She says, Leah, as much as I hate that she put y'all up, at least I kind of understand it. It makes sense for what she knows and all that. So she's saying she's not upset with Leah the way she was upset with Quinn earlier. All right, T-Core is suggesting a pitch to Angela, kind of following up on what I said just a second ago. She's saying when Rabina talks to Angela, maybe suggests that Chemo earlier was sitting next to people who were threats to T-Core, and that's why it was so important not to save Chemo, but to get the other people out. That's the only reason they were fighting for Chemo at that point. So yeah, it had nothing to do with Chemo. It's just there were big threats against T-Core. It's why they were fighting so hard to save Chemo. But in those earlier times, if Chemo had been sitting next to a woman, it would have been a different game, and they wouldn't have been fighting to save Chemo the same way if it'd been a woman up against Chemo instead. So that's the argument that T-Core is suggesting to Rabina as a way to help rein Angela in and make sure that Rabina is protected, as opposed to Chemo or someone else who maybe would go on the block. All right, we've got, let's see, what else on this? We've got Rabina wondering if Chemo's going to be mad if he goes out the door this week. And T-Core, I think, says, well, I think he'll be upset, but I don't think he'll be mad, or I think he'll be disappointed, or he'll be sad, but he's not going to be upset. Uh, T-Core is saying that she doesn't want to see him go, but his going is for a bigger purpose. So I wonder if this bigger purpose will be still in consideration next week. If, oh, I don't know, Cam versus Angela is on the block. Are T-Core and Rubina going to vote to save Angela and send Cam out the door because, bigger purpose and all of that? Somehow, I don't know that that's the case, but at least for now, now that it's beneficial, this bigger purpose is in play with these two, and there's a lot of talk about that. Next week, maybe not. We'll see. They did just get through talking about not putting Cam on the block. No, putting Leah and Angela on the block. So yeah, it seems a little selective sometimes. All right, I'm trying to stay positive, guys. I'm trying. All right, we've got Rubina talking about the game of Big Brother, how it has been so largely dominated by strong athletic men throughout all the previous seasons. Rubina, Danielle Reyes, Janelle, Rachel, Nicole Franzel, Casey, Ian Terry, Andy Harrod, Stephen Moses, they all say okay. They all say hello to you, my friend. I don't think any of them would be considered strong, athletic, dominant type men in this season. And yet somehow they've all managed to win Big Brother. So yeah, I get what she's saying. I don't think it's quite as historical as she thinks, or quite as much domination as she thinks. There have been a lot of different types of people to win the game of Big Brother. All right, T-Core is saying that she hasn't been allowed to share her story yet. The feeds are on you 24 hours a day, T-Core. You got plenty of time to talk about your story. I feel like we now know your grandfather may have been Muhammad Ali. I feel like we know a lot about T-Core's story. Now, maybe she's talking a little bit more, I don't know the right word to use. Maybe not factual story, but just thoughts and feelings. And she talks about that she loves writing and storytelling and things like that. So, but here's your platform, T-Core. You got plenty of time. Tell your story. I feel like they talk about that if you win, that production is forced to tell a lot more story about who you are and where you've come from and all of that. So maybe that's what they're getting at. But yeah, I feel like we're learning a lot of stories about a lot of different people in this house. All right, but having said all that, Women's Alliance telling your story and all that, they do say that they don't want Leah in the end. They would like to see, if it's the final six of women, and Leah's the first one out of here, they'd like to not have her in the final five. They don't want Leah in the end, but they do agree that if it was Leah versus Mackenzie as the final two, if they're on jury and they're having to vote for either Leah or Mackenzie, they're both voting for Mackenzie over Leah. T-Core is talking about Chelsea being upset because she can't get any privacy out in this backyard. She's upset that Cam made the safety deal with Leah and Angela as well. She's also saying that Chelsea knows that Cam hasn't really been there to protect any of their games, that he's been all by himself, hadn't protected anyone so far in this game. Remember that conversation that T-Core and Chelsea had a little bit earlier where Chelsea was really ragging on Cam a little bit? I think it's worked. I truly think this was the intent of it, and T-Core has bought into it, that she now feels like Chelsea and Cam are not like this, but more like this. I'm not sure that's the case. I think T-Core thinks that she is Chelsea's number one, where really Chelsea probably has Cam thinking that. She's got Mackenzie thinking that. She's got T-Core thinking that. I'm telling you, I just really admire the game that Chelsea's been playing this season. She would be such a fine winner if we got down to it. So yeah, Chelsea's done a good job of making T-Core think that Chelsea and Cam, not a big thing right now at this point in time. All right, they're saying, talking about their relationship, the three of them. They say at one point, "Oh, we're not an alliance, we're a friendship." Okay, it's sometimes they're both right, but they're saying that people in the house are jealous of the relationship that these three have. That I think Rubina says at one point, we're a trio that's lasted longer than anyone else. I'm not sure. I hope she's not talking about Big Brother history in general, because we've had a lot of groups that have lasted from start to finish and done pretty well. She's talking about this season. Yeah, they probably started earlier than anyone else, and that's probably valid. But she's saying that they're both saying that people are jealous of the relationship that these three have in the house. They're saying that Angela is probably the most jealous because this is exactly what Angela wanted. And yet she wasn't able to achieve this kind of friendship because she just kept burning bridges with people. And now Angela is just more jealous than anyone as a result of it. Eventually we stop with the T-Core Rubina talk, only because I think T-Core was in the diary room. We've got Leah, who I think has come out of the diary room. Big Brother let him go to bed early. We had most of these house guests probably in bed by 10 or 10:30, but Big Brother kept waking them up to do middle of the night dances, to call people a DR. So trying to stir people awake a little bit to get a little more content. For the most part, it didn't work, but we did have Leah and Rubina talking. Leah's talking about being sad that Rubina is on the block this week. They're both talking about how all their accomplishments they've made so far this season, about how proud they are that they've accomplished so much that they're representing as women in the game. Rubina again suggesting that the game of Big Brother in the past has been dominated by a single archetype, and that archetype is tired and boring and played out, and it's time for something else to happen. She's saying that this is the first girls' alliance ever. We've had plenty of girls' alliances. Now, maybe this one is working a little bit better. I said before, and I still think this, I think maybe the key this season has been this girls' alliance didn't form at the very beginning before everyone knew each other. It just kind of naturally formed to some degree later in the season, when people knew each other a little bit, when some alliances and lines in the sand had already been drawn, and then it formed. And again, yeah, you can call it a girls' alliance. It's not really formal. It still seems to be a little bit an alliance of convenience at times, and I'm not sure everyone's bought into it as much as some people have bought into it. But Rubina's saying that this is the first girls' alliance ever. Leah's saying, finally, to finish this thing up. Rubina asked her about her veto. A little concerned about it, as you should be. And Leah saying, I don't really know. I'm going to ask production tomorrow, see if maybe they'll tell me. Hopefully they'll tell me, because I don't really know what the rules are, how it works. If she finds out, I hope she tells other people so we know as well, because it's certainly going to be an interesting veto ceremony on Monday. Here's the kicker. Angela and Leah have the two vetoes. It is entirely plausible that neither one of them is going to use a veto. In a season where the veto has been used every single week, the 1 week where we have two vetoes in play, we may not see either one of them get used. I think that's possible. I don't know that either one of them is going to be ready and want to make some huge move in this house that's going to put more blood on our hands. So I could easily see Angela and Leah both saying, nah, hands off. We're good the way it is. We'll see. Again, there is a scenario where Angela could be the deciding vote at the end of this whole thing, which kind of would be cool in a chaos kind of way. All right, with that, guys, everyone, again, most people were in bed by 10:30 or 11, but they kept getting woken back up. So I kept watching to see if we'd have some late night conversations. Not so much. Finally, all the house guests in bed by around 3 o'clock or so. And there you have it. So a little chill in terms of the game talk. It was more about the veto and the people holding the power and how that might affect everyone. It does seem like right now, my guess, the vetoes will not be used. Chemo just almost certainly is going to be the target, gets sent out the door. And then we'll see if next week, if Cam is the target and this girls' alliance comes to fruition, or if Angela and Leah remain the target, regardless of gender. We'll find out later. Guys, have a great Sunday. I will talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Until then, SKD143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.